You know your league is on top in America when the release of your regular season schedule is headline news for 24 to 48 hours. When the NBA releases the schedule for their regular season, it is a blip on the national radar. People will look at the schedule for the Christmas Day games, they'll check out the national TV schedule, but for the most part, the release of the NBA schedule is really not that big of a deal. Major League Baseball, do they even release their schedule for the regular season? Because if they do, clearly no one gives a fuck. Major League Baseball is about as relevant in this country as fake professional wrestling. Both of them were popular 20, 30, 40 years ago. But nowadays, neither of them are popular in the mainstream. Both have small niche audiences. When the NFL released its schedule Thursday night, it was national news. Twitter blowing up. You had entire shows on all the major sports networks, ESPN, Fox Sports 1, obviously the NFL Network, dedicated to the release of the NFL regular season schedule. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go over the schedule of all 32 teams. I am going to go over the schedule for my New Orleans Saints. But I'm also going to go over a couple of other teams that schedules caught my attention. So I'm going to start with the Saints and we'll go from there. I was actually pleasantly surprised with the Saints schedule. Usually Roger Goodell finds some way to fuck New Orleans with the schedule every year. I remember a couple of years ago, they played a Sunday night game in the Superdome and then had to travel 3 days later to Atlanta on Thursday Night Football. As far as a schedule is concerned, it doesn't get much tougher than that. Playing on Sunday night, then playing again on Thursday night. They could have at least had the Saints play the early morning Sunday game that kicks off at 11 o'clock. No, instead, they kick off at 7:15 at night. The Saints have been in the top 10 when it comes to strength of schedule the past 4 years. So I was pleasantly surprised when the schedule was released and New Orleans had the 24th toughest schedule in the NFL. The league wasted no time getting to the Tom Brady-Drew Brees matchup. Tampa comes to New Orleans week 1. Should be a win for the Saints. I think it's going to take a few weeks for Tom Brady and the Tampa offense to get acclimated. Tampa Bay opened up as 5.5-point dogs. That number seems about right. I think the Saints can win that game by 7 points. To be perfectly honest with you, I can't see New Orleans losing until week 9 with their rematch at Tampa. Week 2 at the Raiders, win. Packers at home, win. I think Green Bay is going to regress this season compared to last season. And it could be Aaron Rodgers' final season in Green Bay. If you want to hear my thoughts on that deeper, I have a couple of videos on my YouTube archives that you can check out on that subject. Back to the Saints. Week 4 at Detroit, win. Chargers at home, easy win. Saints bye week is week 6. Then they have Carolina at home, win. Travel to Chicago, win. The first half of the Saints season is relatively easy for NFL standards. They should be 7-0 going into the Week 9 rematch with Tom Brady and the Bucs, which I think that they'll lose. The Saints, for some reason, have trouble in Tampa Bay. Drew Brees struggles on grass fields. By Week 9, Tom Brady and Tampa Bay should be a well-oiled machine. So I don't see the Saints going into Tampa and beating them. That Week 9 matchup against Tampa is where the schedule gets really tough for New Orleans. The last 8 or 9 games of the season might be the toughest stretch for any team in the NFL. After Tampa, they've got the Niners and the Falcons in the Superdome. Then a brutal 3-game road trip against Denver, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. Another tough stretch with Kansas City at home on December 20th, turn around 5 days later on Christmas Day and host the Vikings. Close out the season on the road against Carolina. Now, I see the Saints sweeping the Niners and the Falcons at home. The 3-game road trip, I think they'll win at Philadelphia and at Atlanta, but I can see them going into Denver and losing. Drew Brees is 0-5 in Denver, and the Broncos are the only team in the league that Sean Payton hasn't beaten. The 3-game stretch to close out the season, Chiefs, Vikings, Panthers. Another tough stretch. Drew Brees tends to struggle late in the season the older he gets, so I think they'll lose at home to Kansas City. I think they'll beat Minnesota and they'll win to close out the season in Carolina. For the third year in a row, I've got New Orleans going 13-3. I think they'll win the NFC South for the fourth consecutive year. Now, what happens in the playoffs is anyone's guess, but the Saints, once again, will be legitimate contenders for the Super Bowl. Strength of schedule in the NFL is kind of a relative term. It's not like college football, where strength of schedule is a big deal. Even though the Saints have the 24th ranked schedule, one of the, quote, easier schedules in the league, there are no easy games in the NFL. There are no pushovers. It's not like college football where a team like Alabama waits until November to play the first ranked opponent of the season. Every Sunday in the NFL is a dogfight. There aren't any layups. I've seen on Twitter the reaction to the Baltimore Ravens having the easiest schedule in the league next season. How could the number one team going into the playoffs last season get the easiest schedule this season? Chill out, bums. If you really look at the Ravens' schedule, it's not all that easy. The way the, quote, experts determine strength of schedule is they calculate the win percentages of opponents from the year before. Now, I suppose that's the only scientific way to do it, but otherwise it'd be objective. Baltimore's opponents' win percentage was dragged down because the AFC North just wasn't a great division last year. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and the Bengals combined for a 32-64 record last year. We all know the Steelers will bounce back this year. Cleveland should be better. Cincinnati has nowhere to go but up, though I do expect Joe Burrow to struggle. We'll get him in a minute. The Ravens have a brutal stretch during the middle of the season. Check this out. Week 6 at Philadelphia, home against the Steelers, at Indianapolis, at New England, home against the Titans, at Pittsburgh, home against the Cowboys. That is a tough 7-game stretch in the middle of the season. Add on to that, they've got the Texans and the Chiefs back-to-back early in the season. Giants are on the schedule. They should be better. So the Ravens' schedule, even though it's technically the easiest schedule in the league, is far from being easy. Now, I mentioned Joe Burrow a second ago and the Bengals. It is going to be a struggle for him to even stay on his feet this season. The AFC North is usually the best defensive division in the league. You've got 3 great to elite pass rushes in that division in Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. Welcome to the NFL, Joe Burrow. You get to face them 6 times a year. I actually think the Bengals will be 2-2 after the first 4 weeks of the year. Think they'll beat Justin Herbert and the Chargers in the opener, beat Jacksonville on October 4th. In between those 2 wins, they'll lose at Cleveland and Philly. Now after that, I believe everything falls apart for the Bengals. At Baltimore, loss. At Indy, loss. Home against Cleveland and Tennessee, loss. Coming off the bye week at Pittsburgh, November 15th, loss. At Washington, I think they can win that game. I think they can beat the Redskins. Home against the Giants, loss. At Miami, I like Joe Burrow's chances to beat Tua, so I'll give that a win as well. The last 4 games of the season, they will get decimated. Dallas, loss. Pittsburgh, loss. At Houston, loss. Baltimore, loss. I've got the Bengals finishing 4-12. Like I said, it is going to be a struggle for Joe Burrow. It'll be the first time in his life where he will have to deal with losing consistently. I feel bad for him. I've got zero faith in the Bengals as an organization to build around him. And he is stuck with them for the foreseeable future. AFC North's a tough division. Every year, they pack the best defenses in the league. Besides the Bengals, of course, who are consistently an embarrassment on both sides of the ball. The Browns are embarrassing too, but at least they're an entertaining embarrassment. And Cleveland has some talent. They just got to figure out how to put it all together. It'll be interesting to see if Kevin Stefanski can accomplish what very few head coaches have been able to accomplish, and that is actually win in Cleveland. Everyone always thinks there's a bias towards New England when the NFL makes these schedules. The Patriots always have the easiest schedule in the league, every year. That's because for the majority of the last 20 years, the AFC East has been a dump of shit teams. People can't say that any longer because in the first season, post-Brady in New England, Bill Belichick drew the toughest schedule in the league. And it's tough any way you slice it. First off, the AFC East should be a tough division this year. Jets should be better. Dolphins, nowhere to go but up. The Bills are my favorite to win that division. New England's schedule is tough from the start. Open against Miami, travel to Seattle, then the Raiders, travel to Kansas City. The fucking Patriots could open the season 1-3, 2-2 at best. And it doesn't get any easier from there. It actually gets worse. The middle of their schedule is grueling. Niners, Bills, Jets, Ravens, Texans, Arizona, Rams, close out at Miami, home against Buffalo, and the Jets. After seeing this schedule, if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling Cam Newton right now. At least he would give you a chance at the playoffs. Even with Cam Newton at quarterback, it is going to be a tough year for New England. But if Belichick is going to roll with Jarrett Stidham as his starter, there is no fucking way the Patriots are making the playoffs. All right, that's all for today. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for me. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. I appreciate those of you that have already done so. Leave me a comment in the section below. Let me know what you think about the Saints and the Ravens schedule. Do you think Joe Burrow will struggle in his rookie season? Could you see New England missing the playoffs this year? You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. If you have any questions, you can email me at BTLKC84@gmail.com. I will see you guys next time.